Now, to discuss this further, we're joined via Zoom by Tendai Mafuma, who is with Section 27's legal researcher. Mr. Mafuma, thank you so much for your time. First, let's talk to us about why this inquest matters and how different it will be from the inquiry that we know of that was held several years ago.
Thanks so much for having me on your show, and thank you so much to the listeners. So how is this inquest different from the arbitration that we had a couple of years back? So the arbitration came out as a result of the recommendations that were made by the Health Ombudsman after he did his investigation, where he basically said that there must be a process of alternative dispute resolution between the affected families and the Department of Health in Gauteng. And the purpose of that was to find redress and compensation for the families who were affected. And that is what the arbitration did. It was also a process for families to find out the truth about what happened to their loved ones. So the arbitration really was just about compensation for the families over what they had gone through during the marathon. What the inquest intends to do is try and gather evidence surrounding the circumstances of the deaths of each of the mental health care users. And the purpose of that is to see whether anyone can be held criminally liable for the death of the mental health care users. So that is the difference between those two processes.
Now, are we likely to see new evidence emerging from the inquest?
Look, so a number of people are being called to give evidence at the inquest. We are giving, at Section 27, some of the evidence that we are leading is what we led during the arbitration. And we do hope that there will be more people coming to the inquest giving evidence if there is anything that they know about the circumstances of the deaths of the mental health care users. In fact, at the beginning of the inquest this morning, Judge Tefo made that plea and said if there's anyone who has any knowledge that they can add to the process of this inquest, they must contact the prosecutor so that it can be led at the inquest.
Now, I mean, we know that this inquest is meant to also hopefully uncover who should be criminally liable. Are we likely, in your opinion, to see those implicated officials finally face criminal charges?
There is a lot of evidence, and we think some of it is very strong, and that there's a strong case that people should be held criminally liable. We do hope that we'll be able to present all of this evidence, and that all the responsible actors, ranging from department officials to NGO owners who were complicit in all of these acts, will be held liable.
I mean, one of those names, of course, was the MEC, the former MEC of Health, Qedani, Mahlangu. Are there any other names within the confines of government that, in your opinion, should be held criminally liable?
In our opinion, so we cannot say the names of the people that the witnesses who are going to be appearing, but we do think that some of the officials who presented evidence at the arbitration, we do think that there's some strong cases that can be made against them.
So you are representing a couple of families. Talk to us about just some of the witnesses that you will be bringing forward.
Right. So what I can say is that Section 27 is representing 44 families of deceased mental health care users. And what we are hoping to do is really to lead evidence surrounding the circumstances of the deaths of these mental health care users, and lead evidence about how deaths should have been foreseen, because there were so many warnings that were given to the department from families, from stakeholders like SADC. So we'll be representing those 44 families, but what we do hope is that the outcome of, even though we're representing only 44 families, the outcome of what we're doing will result in collective justice for all of the mental health care users who passed away.
Now, we know that following that arbitration in 2018 by retired Deputy Chief Justice Gauteng Moseneke, the families were compensated. But I'm sure this inquiry now has opened up some wounds. Talk to us about how your clients are doing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a very long journey for all of these families. It started as far back as 2015 when the announcement to shut down Life Esidimeni facilities was made. And families, really fought against that. They wanted there to be a good enough plan that would ensure that the mental health care users would be well taken care of. And going through the investigation by the health ombudsman, and again through the arbitration, so there is some of the families that we're not representing is because they're just really tired, and it's a very emotionally draining for them. It's very emotionally draining for them, so they don't want to be part of this process. But the families really do want justice. They want these deaths to be investigated as is required by the Inquest Act, and they want at the end of it the judge to make some findings that will, in a way, will ensure that this mental health care users are finally afforded the dignity that they were not afforded by the Marathon Project.
Now, while the inquest, we know, and I mean, you've said it's not a criminal trial, but what would justice look like for the families?
So justice would look like what justice would look like for the families is that they just want to be sure that all the deaths have been thoroughly investigated. They want to have the confidence that the lives of their loved ones are being considered as they should have been in the Inquest Act, and that if there is anything in the evidence that says that the death was due to criminal offenses, that should be taken further by the NPA to see whether any charges can be laid against anyone. And that is what families are looking for from this inquest.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Mafuna, for your time this afternoon. That was Tendai Mafuma from Section 27, a legal researcher of Life Esidimeni Inquest.